guys, but I'm the teaching pastor here at this church, and so I'm excited to get to hang out with you guys. And like I said, I do know a few of you. Jillian has babysat my kids before. They really enjoyed, taught them fencing a little bit with the big noodles, so I wasn't surprised to see her roughing it up in the Kajabi can, holding her own. All my connections here are like related to babysitting. Allie's older sister was my kid's babysitter a lot. There's Haley. Haley's mom is really good friends with my wife, so it's fun to be here, and it's fun because it brings me back. Obviously, high school for me was a long time ago, but some of my favorite memories are from those high school times, or from those days. And I know you guys are just heading into summer, and summer, you guys excited? One more day. How many of you guys have one more day?
Oh, yeah.
Almost all you guys. All right, and the rest of you are already out? All right. You've been out for a week. Way to go. Congratulations. You're graduating to the upperclassmen part of your high school experience. How many of you guys like high school?
More freedom.
I mean, not so much school, but just like that stage of life. You like being a high schooler.
It's more freedom.
More freedom than junior high?
Yes.
Yeah. The older you get, the more freedom. How many of you guys can drive?
Yeah.
Bunch of you are? Yeah.
I've been doing my driver's ed.
You've been doing your driver's ed. Yeah, once you get to that point, you start experiencing a lot more freedom, a lot more flexibility when you can get yourself places. For me, high school I really enjoyed high school, but it's funny because when I think back on high school, I can't think of any fond memory. I can't think of anything that I really enjoy without thinking of the people that I was with when I was doing it. And that's just kind of one of the things of life. We're connected to other people. The people that you're connected to right now are probably really important in your life. And as I was thinking about getting to share with you guys, especially as you're getting ready for Rock the Boat, probably a bunch of you are going to that, and just thinking ahead to the summer, I wanted to be able to talk to you guys about friendship, which is one of the most important things that we experience during our young years and also during the years as you get a little bit older also. So I want to start just by asking you guys the question and hear what you guys have to say. What makes somebody a good friend? Yeah?
They're always there for you.
All right, they're always there for you. That's good. You going to say the same thing? Still your answer? All right, always have your back. Yeah? All right, yeah, you can confide in them and know you can trust them with those things. Okay. Oh, that's a big one. You know that they're honest when you're doing something wrong. We're going to talk about that more later. Yeah? You can trust them. Trust is huge to any relationship. Did I see another one over here? Anybody? No? Nobody's going to give me anything?
Talk to you if they know what you like.
Okay, easy to talk to. Yeah.
Have the same similarities.
Yeah. I mean, if you're close friends with somebody, you want somebody that you can get along with well, that they know you and that they understand you and that they can relate to you in a significant way. Let me ask you guys another question. Do you think God cares about our friendships?
Yes.
All right, tell me why. Yeah?
You can be hanging out like a bunch of like
All right. So,
being out like church, like people that go to church and also believe in God, and that could affect you.
okay. All right, yeah. Yeah, our friendships affect us. That's huge. We're going to talk about that also later on. Yeah.
Influence you good or bad.
Yeah, absolutely. Friends have a huge influence in our lives. And it's not only that's not the only reason. God is deeply concerned. God cares a lot about our friendships. And one of the reasons that we know that is because God created us in a way that we don't function well if we're alone. In fact, if you guys know kind of the story of creation and all the way back to Adam and Eve, Adam was around, we don't know exactly how long, but Adam was around for at least a little while before God brought Eve onto the scene. And when God brings Eve onto the scene, it's not just a passage about marriage and about, well, God had to get him a wife and marriage is a really good thing. What God says before Eve shows up is it's not good for man to be alone, which is weird because if you read through Genesis 1, if you guys are familiar with it at all, God creates like the stars and the sky and does all that, and then he says it is good. Yeah, if you guys know the story, he keeps saying, it is good. He creates the animals, and he says, it's good. He creates light, and he says, it's good. And he does all these things, and he keeps saying it's good. But then there's one thing, and he says, wait a second, this isn't good. It's not good for the man to be alone. You guys know with prisoners, if somebody's in prison, like the worst punishment that they give a prisoner? Solitary confinement. Just think about that for a second. The idea of being totally isolated and being totally alone. There's something dehumanizing about the fact of being alone. It's not just that God looks at us and says, well, I don't want you hanging out with the wrong crowd. That does matter to God. But it matters to God deeply that we have connections with each other because that's what he made us to do. That's what he hardwired us for us to do, to the point that he saw the man and he said, well, this isn't good. He's got to have somebody like him that he can relate to and somebody that he can be with during this time. What we're going to do today is we're going to walk through them. One of my favorite books of the Bible is Proverbs. How many of you guys have spent some time reading Proverbs? All right, I'm glad you have. Proverbs is for everyone, but if you read Proverbs, you figure out that it's really especially written for young people. It's mostly a father speaking to his son or to his sons. It's this idea of trying to give wisdom from experience and say, don't go down these wrong roads. Here's how life works. Here's how the world works. And in Proverbs, there's a lot that's said about friendship. And some of the things you guys said already play into what Solomon mostly says about the whole idea of friendship. So what I want to do, we're going to look at a bunch of different Proverbs, but I want to look at 3 different really important things that Proverbs say about friendships and encourage you guys in how you're approaching friendships now and how you look to have deeper friendships with each other, with the friendships that you already have. So I'm going to put different verses up here on the screen kind of as we go along, but I've got a couple key statements. And for each statement, we'll look at 2 different Proverbs that kind of run through it. The first statement is this. You guys already talked about this a little bit. Your destiny is connected to your friendships. Where you end up going in life, how you turn out is going to be highly connected to the people that you're connected to. And that's not just an idea that I think is true. That's an idea that we see in Proverbs. I'm going to put up the first one here, Proverbs 12:26. It says, the righteous choose their friends carefully, but the way of the wicked leads them astray. Now, you guys see that up on the screen. What does it say that the righteous do when it comes to their friends? Choose them carefully. Now, here's the thing that's really interesting about that. It's saying, in order to choose carefully, all right, guys, get ready for the most obvious statement you've ever heard. In fact, after I say this statement, you guys can all say, duh, all right? In order to choose wisely, it means you have to choose. All right, some of you got it. In order to choose wisely, it means you need to choose. And the reason I bring that up is because, especially when you're young, sometimes you just kind of fall into friendships. And you look at the people, thank you for demonstrating falling into a friendship. Sometimes you end up looking at the people around you and you don't look at it and say, well, I really made a conscious choice about this. They're just kind of the people that you grew up with. Or maybe when you were young, your parents were friends and so you played together and then you just grew up. Or maybe you ended up being next to each other in a class, or you ended up being on the same sports team. You just kind of fell into a friendship. And you look around and you say, well, these are the people I hang out with, but it's not necessarily something that you consciously went up and chose. Solomon's saying, when it comes to your friendships, because your destiny is tied to them, you want to make sure you're purposeful about the friends that you choose. Now, how many of you have ever gone up to somebody and said, I want to be friends with you? Some of you have? I'm impressed. When you were little? All right. How many of you in the last year have gone up to somebody and said? All right, a few of you have. I didn't expect that many. It's not normally, it's not a normal thing that we usually do. You feel a little bit awkward about just going up to somebody and saying, I want to be your friend, unless you are a little kid. I have 3 sons. They're all younger than you guys. But my middle son, Jack, he has like no filter. Just whatever's going on in his head, it makes perfect sense to him. And he does this performing arts thing, and so he was hanging out with one of his friends who's also named Jack, in this performing arts thing, and his friend's older brother was there. And Jack thought it would be cool to go get to know his friend's older brother. So he went up to him, and he said, I'm Jack. Have you heard of me? I think in his head what he thought is, maybe my friend has talked to you about me, but I love that. He was like, you should know who I am. Kind of a big deal right here. We don't normally go up to people and just say, hey, I'm looking at you and I want to be friends with you. But Solomon is saying there's something important. You don't just fall into friendships. Don't just accept the idea that the people that you sat next to or the people that you played sports with or the people that you grew up with are the people that God has you connected to. Choose your friends wisely. And actually, there's a story in the Bible about a very purposeful choice of friends. In fact, probably the best friendship story in all the Bible is about King David and Jonathan. If you guys have ever read through that story. In fact, David, before he was king, what's the most famous story about David? Yeah, David and Goliath. Really famous story about David. He's this young guy, probably about your guys' age, maybe kind of older, 17, something like that. He has this amazing experience where he trusts God and he believes that God is going to deliver Israel. He's going to win a victory through him. And so he goes and he fights the giant and he defeats the giant. And right afterwards, Jonathan, the king's son, is watching all of this happen. And I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but basically what Jonathan says is, I want to be friends with that guy. Look what he just did. Look at how much he trusts God. Look at how brave he is. Look at how courageous he is. I want to be friends with him. And the story of David and Goliath actually ends with Jonathan going up to David and saying, I want to do life with you. I want to be connected to you. I want our destinies to be intertwined. And it ends up happening throughout the story of David and Jonathan, through some good times and through some really difficult times. And what I want you guys to see is you have the ability to look at your situation and make conscious choices about the people that you want to be connected to. You might right now be friends with some people that if you pause and look at it, they're not necessarily the people that you want your destiny intertwined with. And there might be some other people that you're not yet connected with that you really do want to be connected to. I'll talk more. I'm going to talk about a few of the friendships in my life, but even when I asked the whole question, have you ever gone up to somebody and said, I want to be your friend? I don't know that I've ever done that since I was a kid. Maybe I'm insecure. I want to be more subtle than that. I want to ease my way in. But I did a number of years ago. I had somebody basically do that with me. And friendships as adults it's different. But I had a guy named Rich, and I lived up in Oregon for 8 years. And we were both on church staff together, but we didn't know each other well. He basically came up to me and said, I think we should be friends. And I was kind of like, it was a little awkward. It was funny. And the reason it was funny was because we had almost nothing in common. In fact, we did end up getting to be really good friends. He ended up being my closest friend up there while I lived there. But one of the things that would happen is I had like this really tiny TV at my house, and he was a tech guy, and so he had this great TV system. He'd invite me over to watch sports because I love sports, and so there'd be a big college football game, and he'd invite me over, and he would literally pause it in the middle of the game to point out things about the way that they were lighting the game. And he'd say, look at that, look at those lights, and look at the camera. Do you see the camera over there? And I was like, you know what's fun to watch? Football. And he didn't care at all. We had almost nothing in common. He was into music. He was into tech stuff. I was like, yeah, all right, it's really interesting. I would talk about sports, and he would be like, yeah, don't really care. But we were connected at a heart level because the thing we shared in common was Jesus. Choose your friends wisely. And then I want you guys to look at this other one that Solomon talks about, Proverbs 13:20. He says, walk with the wise and become wise. For a companion of fools suffers harm. The people that you're connected with, you're going to end up being like. You're going to end up looking like, for better or for worse. Have any of you ever had something happen where you started to realize that you were talking like the people that you've been hanging out with? Yeah? It's eerie. I'm a middle child. I have an older sister and a younger brother. And my younger brother talks really, really fast. You do that also. It's not just him. He talks really, really fast. And I normally don't. I'm a pretty laid-back guy. If I'm hanging out with my brother for more than 15 minutes, I find myself talking exactly like him. It is so weird. My wife will be like, what is going on? Slow down. We end up being like the people that we're around. And that can be really, really good, or that can be really, really bad. And you kind of mentioned it earlier when we were talking about why God is concerned with our friendships. It's because we're going to end up adopting the way of life of the people that we're around. And I ended up experiencing this a lot in high school. In high school, I felt like I kind of, maybe 3/4 of the way through high school, ended up reaching a point where I knew I had to make choices. And I'd grown up as a Christian and in a Christian home and felt like I'd never gone way off the reservation. But partway through high school, I realized I kind of had I felt like I was living a double life. I felt like there was a group of friends that thought I was one way, and then there was a group of friends that thought I was another way. And for me, I played water polo in high school, so it was like, all right, I had my water polo friends. I had the guys that I played sports with, hung out with at school, and then I had my youth group friends. And those were the friends I'd go and do stuff with and go to church with and do those kinds of things. And I started to realize the more that I went through high school, I was adopting a lot of the things that were going on with my water polo friends. And they were not like evil, wicked guys who were going and, committing crimes or things like that. But there was just a lot of habits I was picking up. And the biggest one was my mouth. I just had a foul mouth. And it's not hard to imagine why that was happening. You get in an intense sports environment, that's kind of the environment of how things go. That's how everybody was talking. And I just fit right in. I just adopted everything about that. And it wasn't until basically my senior year of high school that I realized these are the people, these friends that I've been connected with, these friends that I'm going to church with, these are the people that I want to be like. These are the people that I want to turn out like. I was looking at where my life was headed with these friends, and it wasn't their fault that I was acting this way. But the more that I gave myself to those friendships, the more I could see where my life was heading. And it was heading away from God. And I had to really make a purposeful choice just to say, these are the friends that I want my life connected to. These are the friends that I want influencing me. And that carried over right into college. I want to tell you guys when I went to college, just this whole idea of you become like the people around you. When I got to college, I immediately got some good friends that I would hang out with. And when you get friends, you just kind of end up being like those friends and doing things like those friends. So I'll tell you some things that happened like soon after I got to college. I started playing a lot of ultimate frisbee and frisbee golf. Any of you guys ever done that? Either one of those? A lot of fun. That was just one of the things on that campus that a lot of people did. Saturdays we'd go and we'd play ultimate frisbee. Every other day basically we'd go and play frisbee golf. I did a lot of that. I started playing a lot of cards. We'd go into the lounge of the dorm and we'd just play cards till late at night. I would just do simple things like that. You pick up the habits of your friends. But here's the other thing that I started to do really regularly. I started to read my Bible all the time. Now, I started to read the Bible all the time in large part because God was at work in my life. But you know why else I started reading my Bible all the time? That's what they were doing. That became normal in that group. And because it became normal, I wanted to be in on it. I wanted to do it. It became normal for me. The people that you connect yourself with are going to determine a lot of where you're headed. And that doesn't mean you should cut off your non-Christian friends. Oh, Jeff talks to you guys about this a lot. You are meant to be a light. If you're a Christian, you're meant to be a light. You're not meant to be separate and just say, well, I'm going to separate myself from everyone else. But you still got to look at that and say, who do I want my life tied to? And you should have Christian friends, and you should have non-Christian friends, but you've got to make the decision, who am I really going to trust with my life? Who am I really going to link my life up with? And you want to link your life up with people who are headed where you want to head. So the first thing that Proverbs talks to us about is that our destiny is connected to our friendships, and that we don't just have to fall into them. We can make choices about them. But I want to tell you guys something else that it says, and this one might seem a little bit funny. Not all friends are real friends. I'm just going to do a couple of verses here, and they might seem disconnected, but I want to show you guys why they are connected. It says in Proverbs 14:20, the poor are shunned even by their neighbors, but who has plenty of friends? The rich. The rich have many friends. He says something similar in 19:4. He says, wealth attracts many friends, but even the closest friend of the poor person deserts them. Have you ever seen, maybe it's on the red carpet or maybe it's with a famous athlete, have you ever seen the whole thing where they're walking around with their entourage? They're just surrounded by people all around them. That's probably not because they're just really good personality people. You know why that is? They have something to offer. People are saying, I want to be in on that. I want some of the spillover of this. I want to be here for this situation. And this might feel disconnected because you guys might be thinking, well, all right, but we're in high school. None of you guys are, famous, right?
Well, couldn't they just be normal people? Famous people can just be normal people.
Famous people could be normal people sometimes.
Ever thought of Famous people be normal people. Think of that concept.
All right, I'm going to noodle on that later tonight. But one of the things, you guys probably even see this a little bit at high school. You know, at high school, there's sort of the people that are well-known on campus. Maybe they're really good. You know, if your school is really into football or basketball, maybe some of those athletes, everybody kind of knows who they are. There's just the kids that have the nice cars or things like that. There's the people that other people want to be linked up to, other people want to be connected to. In fact, let me just give you a test case. If you found out that the kid of a famous musician or famous athlete or actor or something like that started going to your school, just be honest, how many of you would think it'd be kind of cool to know them? Yeah. It's funny because you want to know them, but I made them up. There's nothing about them. You don't know them. You don't know anything about them. Why is it that you want to know them? Yeah, it seems like, well, it would be cool. They have something to offer. They have some way to advance me. Solomon wants to warn us. He's saying, you know, you need to be careful. Not all friends are real friends. Some friends are in it just because they look at you and they think you have something to offer. And you guys right now, you might not be in a position where you have fame or you have a lot of money and so you're dealing with those things. But what you need to realize is that there are going to be, and there might right now, there might be people in your life who aren't real friends. And the reason they're not real friends is because they're only around you because there's something that they're getting from you. And they're being mercenary about it. And here's one of the ways you can tell. You know what happens when there's a famous athlete or actor who has that entourage of people? You know what another name that they use for those kinds of people is? Well, no, paparazzi is the one who takes pictures of them with the entourage. One of the things that they'll call those people is yes men. It is a movie. I've never seen it. Yeah, and basically what it means is they're going around and they're just always positive. They're always agreeing with everything that happens. They're always agreeing with everything that the famous one says. Oh, yeah, you're right. That was a really funny joke. And yeah, you should have won that award. And yeah, they're all against you. Whatever it is, they're just yes men. There's probably people that you know in your life right now that they kind of function that way in a group of friends. They're always positive. The reason you can, the way that you can spot somebody like this, somebody that's not a real friend, is when there's something going on in your life and they're unwilling to tell you the truth about it. One of you just kind of talked about that earlier. The idea that true friends are willing to tell you hard truths, even when you don't want to hear it. My best friend, his name is Dave. Actually, my youngest son is named after him because we've been friends for so long. My best friend in college, we're still connected. He lives in Washington, but we FaceTime once a week and just have really stayed in each other's lives. But there was a time with Dave that we'd only known each other for probably a couple years. So we hadn't had this lifelong friendship. But I remember one time when Dave did this to me, when he sort of called me on the carpet and I didn't really like it. And basically what was going on was there was another friend that I was really upset with. I really felt like he'd done some things that I was really frustrated about. So I was kind of venting about it to Dave and just telling him, I just can't believe this guy. I'm so frustrated with him. And I went off for a little while about it. And at the end, you know what I was hoping for Dave to say? Yeah. Yes, you're right. Absolutely. He's way out of line. Instead, Dave, he got real awkward and quiet. And I was sort of like, well, what do you think? And he said, I think I'm afraid to ever let you down, because I'm not sure you'll ever get over it. He basically was listening to me rant about this other friend who I felt like had let me down. And he told me the hard truth of saying, man, people better not let you down because you will not let them back in. Now, anybody want to guess? Do you think that I was super excited that he said that or kind of ticked off at him? Yeah, I was. I was basically like, he doesn't get it, you know. If he really got it, he would say, yes, you're right, of course, you're right, yeah, you're really good at that, yeah, whatever it is. My favorite proverb, I don't have it up here on the screen, but my favorite proverb is Proverbs 27:6. And it says, wounds from a friend can be trusted, but the kisses of the enemy are deceitful. True friends are willing to tell you the truth, even when you don't like it. Any of you guys remember that kid story, The Emperor's New Clothes?
Emperor's New Groove?
Well, no, The Emperor's New Groove is awesome, though. It's like my kid's favorite movie. It is. There's the Llama movie, and then if you have Netflix, there's Kronk's New Groove, which is not nearly as good, but Kronk is really funny.
I didn't like Kronk's New Groove.
You didn't like Kronk's New Groove? Gave it a thumbs down? Well, either way, not that movie, but there's a famous children's story called The Emperor's New Clothes. And basically what the story is these two con men come in and they get this special job from the emperor and they're going to make him new clothes. And they pretend the whole time that they're working away, making these really regal clothes that he's going to wear. And then he comes in to try them on for this big parade that he's going to go out on. And when he comes in, there's nothing there. But the con men pretend that there is something there. And they bring him over, and there's hangers, but there's nothing on him. And they say, look at this amazing robe. And because of the fact that they're acting so convinced that these clothes are there, he kind of caves in, and he just assumes, well, maybe I'm the one who's weird. Yeah, this looks really nice. And pretends to put on the robe and pretends to put on the shoes and the hat. And he goes out with no clothes on to parade in front of the people. He goes out.
13 right there, kids are around.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a true story. But so he's parading around wearing nothing, and everybody around is talking to each other about how great the clothes look. Everybody feels like they need to be yes men. Yeah, the king and the emperor looks great. Those are really nice. Wow, that hat, really solid. Good stuff. Yeah, whatever it is. Finally, the way that the illusion gets broken is from a kid. A kid sees all of it, and he goes, he doesn't have any clothes on. And as soon as he says that, sort of the spell is broken and everybody realizes. The reason that it's a kid story, but it's really a profound story because it shows how far something can go when you're just surrounded by a bunch of yes men. Let me tell you guys, if you have a friend in your life who's told you something difficult that you didn't want to hear, that's the friend you want. That's a real friend. You don't want to lean into the friendship where they're just always going to make things easy for you. If you have a friend that's done that for you, if you have a friend that's told you you're out of line, you're way off, you need to stop this, you need to come back to this, you need to admit that you did this. If you have a friend like that, that's a true friend. That's the friend that you want your destiny tied to. But let me go into one more here at the end, and this is connected to what we were talking about here. Your destiny is tied to your friends, but not all friends are real friends. But what he's going to tell us is that true friends come through in difficult times. And when we were talking at the beginning, and I was asking you guys about how you know somebody's a real friend, a lot of the things you guys were saying was, they're always there for you. They have your back. They're there when the chips are down. Solomon says something similar. In 17:17, he says, a friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for a time of adversity. Friends really show their true colors when they're there for you when the chips are down, when things are really difficult. Now he says in 18:24, one who has unreliable friends soon comes to ruin, but there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. True friends are the friends who are there for you when you can't offer them anything, when it doesn't benefit you. If there was a famous athlete walking around with his entourage, if he suddenly had an injury and was out of that league, you know how many of those guys would still be around?
None.
Yeah, maybe zero, or maybe somebody would emerge and prove that they were a true friend. Because when they weren't getting the spillover anymore, when they weren't getting on camera because they were next to him, they would finally reveal that they're the true, that they're the actual friend, because he didn't have anything left to offer him. I talked to you guys at the beginning about David and Solomon. And if you ever do, just read sometimes in 1 Samuel, kind of in the middle chapters of 1 Samuel, it talks about David and Jonathan. And it's a really powerful friendship. And one of the reasons it's a powerful friendship is because Jonathan was the king's son, which means he was next in line for the throne. But King Saul hated David. And so here's Jonathan, he's best friends with David, and he's next in line for the throne. But then there's King Saul, and he hates David, and he wants to kill him because he feels like David is a threat. And there have been promises and prophecies that David's going to be the next king. And David comes to Jonathan one day, and he says, your dad is going to have me killed. And Jonathan says, you're crazy. My dad's a good guy. He would never do that. And David says, here's what I want you to do. And they kind of plot a plan, they figure something out, and they're going to sort of lay a trap to figure out if David's life really is in danger. And basically what happens is Jonathan walks away from the little plan that they have, realizing that David was right, realizing that his dad is after David. Now just think about this for a second. If David's dead, who's already next in line for the throne? He's the heir. He's headed towards the throne. He's going to be king one day. David is his biggest threat. If David is out of the way, there's really nothing standing between Jonathan and being king one day. And when Jonathan realizes that his dad is after David, he realizes that David is about to become an outcast. And Jonathan's faced with a choice. He can kind of line up with dad and say, yeah, you're right, this David guy is a troublemaker, let's get him out of the way. He could secure his place headed towards the throne. Or he could choose to stay loyal to David, an outcast who's about to have no power. And Jonathan decides, even though it's going to cost him, he's going to stay loyal to David. He helps him escape. He helps him hide. He feeds him secret information. He has times that he goes and he catches up with him and he encourages him even though he's on the run for his life. You know a true friend is really a true friend when they're with you even though there's nothing you can offer them, even though there's nothing they're really getting out of it. When you're at such a low point that it doesn't really benefit them to be your friend. Friends are true friends when they're there with you when everything has gone wrong. And here's what I want to share with you guys even about that. In fact, I'll put up the first statement again because I feel like it's the most important thing. Your destiny is connected to your friendships. And that's going to be true at all points in your life. But man, you guys are in high school right now. You're making decisions about the kind of people you're going to be. You're making decisions about where your life is headed. You're starting to get to that point where you're making decisions that have more weight. One of you was saying earlier, there's more freedom. You're experiencing more freedom. When you're young, if you make some bad decisions, it's really low cost. If you're 4 years old and you make some bad choices, you shrug that off pretty quick. When you're 10 years old, if you make some bad choices, all right, that has a little bit of a lingering effect, but you still shrug that off really quick. When you start getting to be 16, 17, you're making decisions that could have a significant impact on the rest of your life. The stakes are higher the older that you get. Your destiny is connected to your friendships, and God wants it that way. It's a positive thing. That's how He made us. He made us to be connected to other people. And I want to encourage you guys through this summer to really think about this. How many of you guys are going on Rock the Boat? A bunch of you, good. I'm glad. A lot of you are going. If you're not going, I still want you to think about this just in terms of this summer. You're not going to be sitting next to those same people in class because you're getting a break from class. If you play sports, you're probably getting a break from sports. You're getting a break kind of from the normal routine. Summer may be a time where you actually have a lot more choice in the people that you're going to surround yourself with. And so the question you got to ask is, who are the people that you want to be connected with? If you're going on Rock the Boat this next week, who are the people that maybe you're not really connected with yet, but you've seen how they're living? Just like Jonathan looked at David and he said, that's the kind of person I want to be connected with. You've seen how they lived. You've seen how they love Jesus. You've seen how they're courageous. You've seen how they stand for what's right. And you say, I want to be connected to them. I want our lives to be connected. Now, just because you want your lives to be connected, I don't know, it's not always going to turn out that you guys are a great fit to be friends. But don't just sit around hoping that it happens. Go after it. And you know what else? Some of you have friends in your life right now that even as we go through this, you can tell, you know what, they are real friends. They're real friends because when I've been out of line, they've been willing to tell me that I'm out of line. And when I haven't really been in a position to benefit them, they've still been there with me. They've still been there with me when I got really sick or when my parents were going through a really hard time or when other friends were kind of ditching out on me. They've still been there. Those are the friendships that you want to lean into. Those are the friendships that you want to be willing to trust that person with. To where if you're going through something and you're kind of scared to admit it or scared to admit some sin that you're struggling with and not having a lot of success in, those are the friends who are trustworthy. Those are the friends that you want to link your life together with. And the greatest thing about friendship is it reminds us about what God is like. When you have a friend that's really willing to be a friend to you, it reminds you of what God is like. Because here's the basic message that we have about Jesus. The basic message that we have about Jesus is not that God looked down on all of us and said, you all are so perfect and great and wonderful that I gotta have you in my family. The message that we have about Jesus is that God looked at us and he saw how broken, he saw how powerless, he saw how sinful we were, he saw how messed up we were, and he said, I still want you. I want you that badly. God wanted us when we didn't benefit him at all. And the message of Jesus is about somebody coming and sacrificing his life for us so that we could be close to him, even though he didn't really seem to get much out of it. When you have that kind of friendship, and when you are that kind of friend to somebody else, you remind yourself of what the message of Jesus is all about, which is God reaching out to us, even when it didn't really benefit him. Your destiny is tied to your friendships. Lean into the friendships that are real. Pull away if you need to the friendships that you realize that this isn't the real deal. This person is leading me down the wrong road. And this summer, make it a special project to choose wisely the friends that you're going to choose to link your life to. Let me just go ahead and I'm going to pray for you guys. I think, Carolyn, you're going to come up for a final reminder, or you want? Are you not? All right. Well, then I'm going to pray, and then we're going to be done, because I think that that's the final thing. So let me just pray for us. Father, I want to thank you. I want to thank you that even as we talk about friendship, you're the greatest friend. There's no friend that we could have like you. There's no friend that would be ever willing to sacrifice as much as you were willing to sacrifice in sending your son, Jesus, to give his life for us. There's no one who's ever been willing to be as faithful a friend as you are. There's no one who can help us as much as you can. Thank you that you have been the greatest friend. And I pray for these students. I pray that even when they're having trouble in friendships and feeling lonely, that they would find that connection to you and find the comfort and closeness that you offer us. But God, I also thank you that you've made us to be in connection with other people. You haven't made us to be alone or to be isolated, to just be sitting around on our phones or on our iPads or computers. You've made us to really be connected to each other. And I pray for these students. I pray that you lead them not just towards warm bodies to be able to sit next to, but that you lead them towards friends who will be true friends who will call them on the carpet when they're out of line, friends who will be there and put their arms around them when they're struggling and going through difficult times, friends who will be on their team. And I pray for Rock the Boat next week. I pray that would be a time where friendships would deepen and would build, and that a lot of the students in this room would be more connected to people who are going to walk with Jesus together with them. And God, I pray for those who aren't going on Rock the Boat, but for all the students, I just pray that this summer would be a summer where they would end up looking back on and saying, that's where I really got deep with the friends in my life. That's where I really took the risk and told my friends what I was struggling with, or where I was failing, or what I was afraid of, and that they saw the benefit that came out of that. God, I pray for all of those things. I pray that you bring new friends into our lives who will encourage us and bring us along. And God, I pray that you would allow us to have the wisdom to see the friendships that we need to pull back from and the ones that we need to lean into. I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.